Hey, everybody, welcome to Rush Hour with me and the truth and you all tonight as we're going to vent a little bit and talk some Giants football. We're not going to do too much with the Giants and the Commanders. We'll touch on it a little bit. You know, what's grinding your gears, at like Mike likes to say. So anyway, let's turn it over to Mike. Mike, how you doing tonight? I watched the show Monday, so we don't need to recap that disaster. But what's going on, Mike? How you feeling?
Everything's just peachy down here in the Carolinas. Um, now that the Giants aren't playing football, I'm focusing more on playing golf. So,
Well, that's good. It's a nice diversion, right? You have.
yeah.
That's good. That's good. And there's Jay Perry already chiming in. We need to lose. Yes. Well, we're on our way, Jay. It's happening.
Well, we're going to talk about that, Jay.
Oh,
We're going to talk about that, buddy.
that's it. Hey, Colt. So, yeah, definitely chime in. We have a few people. I put it out today for the DMs, so I got a few people responding. But we do it again. Make sure Jay, real cold, respond. We'll get you on the show and on Rush Hour because we're going to do a lot of these. I think, right, Mike? As the season's crawling to the finish line, I think we'll do a bunch of these just to get some point of view from other other fans. But all right, Mike, what do you want to? I know we're going to do it briefly. What do you want to touch upon, Giant Commanders? Anything you want to say our piece before we move on? What do you think Sunday? We'll make it quick. What's your feelings on Sunday?
Well, listen, let's be realistic here. The Giants are playing with their third string quarterback, who's a practice squad quarterback. They've been dinged up a lot. A lot of players. I saw your list today on Twitter. A lot of guys are questionable and not just role players. They're like a lot of key players that play a lot of snaps. So, listen. The Giants won the last game, I believe, 14-7. I just don't see them generating enough offense, even against Washington. And I think Washington's playing much better. I see a Giants loss. It's not really a shocker to anybody here. I just can't see them winning this game.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. And thanks, Cole, for letting me know about the microphone. I'm not sure what's going on.
I can hear you pretty good. So
you can hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, guys, if it's a little muffled, but maybe it's better, less than me. You know what I mean? But but real, just going into Sunday, one of the things I noticed with Washington playing against Seattle, they Robinson, the running back, had about 130 yards receiving, and I think McLaurin only had like 40 something. So it looks like Howell, really likes to hit the running backs lately and the tight end. I saw a lot from Logan Thomas. I threw out a fact which was off the wall today, and I'm not. And Mike, you made a great point. How many attempts does a Howell have as the quarterback throwing? But one of the craziest things I put up today was that Howell has been sacked 47 times and leads the NFL with 2,700 yards.
Wow, so that's an odd combination.
Right, a bad offensive line, Mike, but yet he's throwing the ball. He's leading the league in yardage, so that was a little crazy, don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know top of my head, but I doubt that's a stats that most quarterbacks share during the season. So I'd like to know if that ever happened, a guy leading the league and also being sacked the most times.
Yeah. And you're right, Chris Peace over there. He threw for like 330 yards. He's thrown 17 touchdowns. He's actually playing pretty well under Rivera and Bieniemy. It's going to be interesting to see in Washington what they end up doing with the new ownership if Rivera's out. Let's say he ends up 5-12 or 6-11. Does Rivera stick and then they get cleared out and Howell's part of a new coaching staff and regime coming in. Well, not regime, but coaching staff. So keep an eye on Washington because God forbid they lose on Sunday. That's not going to sit well with ownership because everybody knows how bad the Giants are. And the Giants, I believe, are 8-2 the last 10 games about Washington. So we're their kryptonite, So I don't know. You never know in these Washington Giant games how they go. But the Giants seem to beat Washington quite often. So anyway, they're going to fire him. Yeah, you're probably right. Mike, before we move on, anything else before we'll jump ahead and get Mark Thompson on. What before
Yeah.
we welcome Mark? Anything else you want to add to the game before we move forward?
No, I just want to see. I just want to see him get through a whole game without an injury, a serious injury to one of their players. I mean, it seems to be like the Giants have the most injuries of any team in the NFL. It seems that way. I don't know the accurate stats, the exact stats. I have no clue, but
Yeah.
that's what it seems like.
Yeah, it sure seems that way. And they have three. I think it's Kayvon, Jalen, and Dory still in concussion protocol this week, so we'll see with them. But yeah, it's nonstop, right? It's nonstop. Thankfully, Andrew Thomas made it back in the game and he played pretty well. That was scary, but Andrew
Yeah.
Thomas seems to be all right. So, okay, without further ado, let's bring one of our fans and favorites. You know, he's like part of the show at this
Yeah,
point.
he can run for mayor.
Yeah, really, Mark Thompson. So enough of us. Let's welcome Mark in. Hey, Mark, welcome again. You're like a regular here. How's everything going?
Everything's good down here. It's not as cold as up there, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, right.
in the 30s a little bit today. It's gonna heat up a little bit in Jersey, and
Yeah,
but I know, Mike's has a good weather too. So
Yeah, it's not bad. A little cloudy today, but it was pretty
you
good.
guys are in the right spots. I'm in the wrong spot. So
yeah, it's warm, but it's been raining a lot. It's been raining,
Yeah.
okay,
raining a lot
All right.
here. But I mean, well, it's been a wonderful season so far, hasn't it?
that's it. And Mark,
I mean,
I
yeah,
want to keep this open. I don't want I want to just not talk too much. Mark, what's on your mind? Give me your thoughts of post Dallas. Let's forget Dallas. What are you feeling right today on Wednesday in November on the 15th? Giants.
Well, I guess I've come to the conclusion it's not going to be a great season, right? it's not going to be the season that
That's what
you
they have
thought
Mark
you were
on,
gonna have.
man.
Yeah, but I was just trying to think about how did we get here? Like why? Like how did that happen? And I started with the receivers of all things because I'm thinking to myself, okay, we went in, we got a whole bunch of 2s and 3s, let's say, right? We didn't get a number 1. We got 2s and 3s, and the receivers really haven't really performed. Now, is it their fault? I'm not sure. Is it if it's just their fault? I mean, I saw a report that said that our receivers get open a lot, and I'm thinking to myself, what game are they watching? You mean like open after like the quarterback gets sacked, or I mean that doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, it is what do you mean by open? If the quarterback can't see you or the offensive line doesn't protect you, then you're not open, right? So you might be open, but if he can't get to you, forget it. But on paper, going in, it seemed like if the receivers were better than the receivers we had last year, right? On paper. So why did we do better with less last year than this year? Like what happened? Okay, it's not like we had a great offensive line last year. It was certainly better than now, though. We had an offensive line that was maybe ranked 24, 20. I guess depending on who you look at, somewhere in that range, and somehow or the other, the same quarterback that we want to get rid of was able to perform behind that O-line and get the ball to receivers that were no-name receivers. How did that happen? I mean, like, what's the big difference? And I've come to the conclusion of a couple of things. I don't think it's just any one thing. I think it's a bit nuanced. So obviously the O-line is a big part of the problem. The O-line is horrible, right? We went into the season with no depth, none whatsoever in the O-line. I mean, let's think about it for a moment, right? Our starters are supposed to be Thomas, Bredesen, JMS, Glowinski, and Neal. Now, of that group of 5, you had Neal that didn't have a good first year. You had JMS that's a rookie. And you would say that Glowinski and Bredesen are okay. It's only Thomas that's a star, right?
Right.
But look who's backing him up. Pert, Lemieux. They've done absolutely nothing in 4 years. Izudu, McKeithen.
Right.
They're
and
practically
coming
like
off
rookies.
surgeries, right, Mark? They're both coming off injuries.
Yes, they're both off injuries and they're practically rookies. So if you had an injury, you are now you are now hoping that any one of those four would be able to come in and adequately back up. Didn't happen. Like it happened in the very first game, and it's never stopped since then. And we even chose to make Azudu a left tackle before we even made Pert the left tackle. What does that tell you about what we were thinking about Pert? So I'm thinking they didn't want to spend on any depth for the O-line. So that's a decision they made, right? I'm not trying to say that Shane is a bad GM or anything of that nature, but certainly decisions made here he's going to have to learn from, because they definitely made some decisions that ended up ultimately costing them on this O-line.
Yeah, and Mark, to your point, and Mike, jump in. With the evaluation process on the offensive line, you do have to hold Bobby Johnson accountable, because he has a lot of say in the coaches' meetings on how he's evaluating his unit. And if he sees Azudu jumping Pert, why is Pert even on this team? So that's with so many questions on the offensive line. But I agree, with everything.
Ton of questions. And so you also. So go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, you got to look at the schedule too. Last year's schedule was a lot weaker than this year so far. So and Giants caught people by surprise last year too, not this year. So a lot of factors.
Yes, exactly. So that's why I said it's nuance. It's not any one thing. I just starting with the O-line, and that includes the coaching. So let's go to the coach. So let's go to the coaching part now. I don't, is Bobby Johnson the answer? Is he the problem? I really don't know, because he last year the O-line probably performed a little better than I expected. But this year, no. So it's like if we said, okay, we did great with the pieces that we had last year. We fit the scheme with the pieces last year. But this year, we're going to go and get the pieces we want to fit our scheme.
Right. Great point by Cole right there. Yeah.
Sorry?
I'm sorry, Mark. Great point by just what you were saying. Great point by Cole. Real Cole. I popped it up. How did Bobby Johnson tell Shane with a straight face he could work?
I don't know.
That's the question right there, right?
Yeah, I suspect. I mean, and then maybe that didn't happen. I really don't know. It may be a cap issue, because if you're keeping Gates or Feliciano or any one of those guys, you're gonna have to pay them, right? So these guys you don't have to pay. They're about to go out. So I don't know, but to me, we hadn't got pieces. Let's say like the receivers we felt maybe would fit the scheme, as opposed to fitting the scheme around them, and it hasn't really worked out. It's almost like a brand new, starting all over again situation with the scheme, the players, and all that. So you got a brand new offensive line almost. You've got a brand new set of receivers. You got to learn them. You've got to work around it. We just got blown out of the water the very first game. We just never recovered from that from a confidence standpoint. I really think that leaving Jones in the end of that game really didn't do him any favors. It felt like punishment. I mean, I was there at the game. You were there at the game, Chris, and it felt like punishment to me. Like, why are you?
Why? And you notice that with Dable, he's done that in the past in different situations, leaving players in too long. Andrew Thomas, I know you got to practice, but the fact that he came back. But could you imagine if Andrew Thomas got hurt again on Sunday? I mean, everybody would scream, "Well, you're putting him back in the game. He just got wheeled off." But to your point, Dable seems to make some of these decisions where guys come back in the game or he keeps them in too long. We saw with Adoree last year in punt return. We were all screaming for that. Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Those kind of decisions.
Right. I mean, punt return. Look at that. We drafted a rookie, Eric Gray, who maybe wasn't going to be in the rotation in running back, but we wanted him to do the punt return and kick return. We forced him to do that. Right. Clearly, that was not his forte. And so that's what I mean by fitting square pegs in round holes. Like if we pick them, we want to force that to make that work, but it didn't work. It's backfired completely.
Sure. And Mark, real quick, I just want to say hi to Mark B, who jumped in, and George. Thanks for coming to the show, George. Jumping in. Look ahead, Mark.
Okay. So I'll try and make my other points quickly.
No, you got time.
Oh, okay, good.
That's time. Hurry up.
Me and Mike, we pretty much canned it on the Washington talk for this weekend. We just gave you more time.
So I'm thinking over here. Hold on, Mark. While you're thinking about what you're going to say, I will say this, and probably you guys are going to think I'm crazy, and anyone listening in, they still have these guys on one and second year linemen. I still think a couple of them are going to get better. I really do. I still think they're going to become serviceable linemen in the NFL, whether they are with the Giants as a backup or whatnot. I still believe in guys like Izudu. I really do think that he's going to be a serviceable lineman for them. A lot of these guys only have 1 or 2 years under the belts. It's not easy for a lineman to have a productive and be maybe not dominant, but efficient in just 1 or 2 years. It's not easy.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm not saying they're trash. I'm just saying they weren't ready. Just
Right.
basically, I'm just saying that they were not ready. They weren't ready to take out the mantle. They weren't proper depth. No, they're not ready to start. They're not ready to come in and really play at a level that really makes the team continue to hum. That's what I'm saying. They're just not ready, and they may very well be ready in another year, but they weren't ready. And so I know we can get all the questions about whether Johnson's the right coach or not. I really don't know. I mean, but we have the example of you letting go of Phillips, going to the Philly practice squad, coming back, and is playing okay. He's not like letting the world on fire, but he's playing okay, right? And and why did we even let him go? I have no idea. Did he learn something when he went over there? I don't know. Maybe he did.
They picked Bird over him, right? They picked Bird over him, and he even played better last year than Bird did.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Listen, we don't see practices.
Yes.
I don't know what they're looking at. I don't. Just based on game performances, I don't know how he made the team over Phillips.
Right. I mean, Dable's personality. He likes to lean on his coaches. I mean, he has that type of personality where he's not just a me guy. He likes to lean on the thoughts and the the knowledge of what his guys are witnessing in practice. I would think he's in once again the coaches meeting with Bobby Johnson. All right, what's going on with Tyree Phillips, Pert? We're we can only keep one of them. What's your thoughts on a Pert or a Phillips? I would think Bobby Johnson would be giving his knowledge of running that unit on the offensive line, and to say, no, we're going to go with Pert. He's my guy, and then he doesn't even play hardly any snaps at the tackle position at right tackle. So yeah, to your point, that's just makes you scratch your head. By all accounts, Mark, what you've heard about Bobby Johnson from Buffalo fans and up there in Buffalo is that he's a heck of a nice guy, great guy, but he's not much of a teacher. He doesn't improve your offensive line, and that's kind of what we're seeing here. And we've been seeing that for years now. The offensive line, you see other teams all the time, they plug in guys and it seems to work out. Whereas the Giants, it seems like we plug in guys and it never works out. So, to your point.
Yeah, agreed. Clearly who is coaching up the offensive line is very important. I don't know. I mean, Tony Soprano Jr., who was the assistant O-line coach, has left and he's gone to, where is it? I can't remember now. Someplace. I mean, it's Titans, is it? He's gone?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Titans, right? Yeah. And so, I mean, I don't know. Maybe he had more influence than we thought. I don't know. But it certainly, all that has to be questioned. There's no doubt it has to be questioned. I mean, I go back and I look at the All-22, let's say the 4th and 2 play at the beginning of the game when Barkley was going for the 4th and 2. I mean, I didn't want them to go for the 4th and 2. I wanted them to kick the field goal because all season long we have been failing on plays like that. So in my view, the defense did a really good job. Let's get some points out of it. At least say, well, we came away with some points. You could also argue that you should go for the 4th and 2. But in my opinion, the odds were against it. And when they went on, if you look at the play, if you relook that play, it was there for the taking. But the offensive line didn't perform. They didn't do what they were supposed to do.
Well, he ran into McCutcheon. McCutcheon got spun around, and he ran into him. But that's typical.
McKethan got spun around, and also McKethan was supposed to help a bit with Pugh. So Pugh ended up not being able to hold his guy and kind of like went across. So I mean, so it got all messed up, right? So I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know.
And
So it's,
Mark, by the way, good point by George. A lot of people were screaming for Munchak. Munchak in over the offseason or the past few years. I believe he lives in Colorado. I heard that and wants to stay in that area if he got a job. So, but money talks. I would love a guy like that, and he's a proven
well, I heard that he said
teacher.
that he kind of left the door open for leaving Colorado. That's what I heard, but that was
Okay.
a little while ago. Who knows, right? But certainly, if you can get a top offensive line coach, that's probably one of the things that we do need. The other thing is the secondary. The secondary is pretty. It's not bad. We have training wheels on a bunch of guys. I mean, Adoree has been in and out of the lineup. Banks is a rookie. Hawkins is a rookie. McLeod and Plot, they're not rookies, but they're now coming along.
Penix,
as
first year
well.
starter.
Say again.
Penix, the first year starter, isn't he?
Who's the first year starter? Said
Penix.
Yeah, Penix. Yeah,
Wow.
he's the first year starter. Absolutely. So I mean, we're still trying. They're still trying to get their feet wet and become solid players, and so and they're okay. But if the secondary doesn't hold up, the pass rush can't get there. The pass rush doesn't get there, then the secondary can't hold up. It's which is it? And the last two games, we've hardly got a hit on any of the quarterbacks, right?
Yeah.
And if you can't get a hit on the quarterbacks, they're going to eat you alive the whole time.
Yeah.
So it's an issue there. So that now speaks to pass rush. So you've got obviously Lawrence, you've got Thibodeau, but Ojulari has been injured. Before the beginning of the season, I'm sure we all wanted a third pass rusher. We didn't get one in the draft. We didn't pick up one in free agency. And we don't want a third pass rusher just because we were concerned about Ojulari and his injury situation. But we also think that if you're going to be a good team and pass rush, you need three at least, right?
Yeah, you need depth. You're right.
Yeah, you need depth, and you need three at least. You need somebody else to come in. You can't. Guys can't play 100% of the snaps, right?
Not everybody's Max Crosby, right?
Yeah, well, unless you're Max Crosby, that's true.
Right.
But so I don't. So even though I'm saying all this, I obviously some of these young players, because we were a very young team, like the third youngest team, they're going to get a lot of snaps. They got 7 more games left. They're going to get a lot of snaps, and maybe this is going to help us for next year. And then we're going to decide who we're going to keep and not keep. And so we may not be. That's why I said it's a bit nuanced. We may not be as far off as we may think. I don't even want to get into the quarterback issue, because I just want to see how we go the next 7 games first, and then you know where you're picking, and then you could kind of look at all that. I do think we picked some sort of quarterback. Where we pick, I don't know. And the question is, if you're in a position to pick like a real game changer, well, you should pick that person. But if you're not there, you have to decide what are you going to do. But at some point in time, you're going to have to pick, because Tyrod is not going to be on contract, and you're going to see about DeVito. So I'm pretty sure we're gonna pick somebody at some point in time, somewhere.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's going to happen.
And the two worst possible spots at the quarterback position in the offensive line have been disasters. It's been a chain reaction. It all stems from that, and it just filters on down. My opinion. So, but,
yeah, I mean, look, and I would say go to free agency to help that offensive line, right? But I don't know. At least in terms of tackles, I'm not sure that many free agent tackles coming out are going to be in free agency.
Yeah, it's very thin at the right tackle spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw Johan Williams from Bengals. I think he plays on.
Okay.
He's the right tackle, and someone brought him up on Twitter today, and they project him to make obviously an increase. So I don't know how much that you take stock in those what they think the websites, how much they make. But there's a guy that could be a possibility if that's where they go. I definitely agree they should go. If you're gonna move Neal to inside at right guard, you can't replace him with a rookie. I don't mind him drafting a rookie, but you can't replace him with a rookie. You should get a right tackle in there who's it doesn't make sense if you do that. If you don't do that.
Just somebody that could just do the
Step
job.
in.
Somebody that's I wouldn't say a seasoned veteran, right? But somebody that's just a solid right tackle. Doesn't have to be
dependable.
That could just do the job, and the learning curve we don't have to go through again, because I think if we have to go through a right tackle learning curve, we draft another one. I think we're right back in the same spot. Especially as you guys know, they moved the ends around and the edge guys around so much. It's no more that they just put them over the left tackle. They're going to go to the weakest link. But Mark, anything else you'd like to add? We're going to bring Scott on next. Anything else as we?
I'll just add one more thing. You mentioned about injuries earlier. We had injuries last year, but not to key people. We've had injuries to all our key people, and that's all. So as I said, a whole bunch of factors there. The young team, the O line not performing, everything. So I'll just leave it there, and thanks for having me on, guys.
Hey, good stuff, Mark. And listen, we always like you on the show. I mean, just like you and everybody else that chimes in on the chat, you always come with knowledge. You love the blue, and we'll get through it like we always try to. We're gonna have to wait a little longer again, but we always appreciate you coming on and chiming in on all the great knowledge and information, Mark. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
On the show. All right, we'll be in touch. Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mark.
Take care, Mark.
Thank you.
All right, so good job by Mark as always. So next, we'll just move right along. Scott, who you might remember last time, Scott came on, gave some great stuff, especially going back in Giant history, just like Mike does a lot, going back and the ups and downs of this franchise. So you'll remember Scott. So let's without further ado, let's bring Scott into the show, who always brings a bunch of good stuff to the table. Hey, Scott, welcome aboard. Good. How are you?
How you doing, Mike?
Hey, how are you?
Thanks for having me on tonight.
Absolutely, Scott. We always appreciate you chiming in, and I don't want to hold you up, so I'm not even going to ask you really a question. What is on your mind November the 15th? What are you thinking about right now in terms of this franchise?
Well, look, again, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. It was great. It's great following Mark. Look, I'm looking at this roster, and I wrote this down. We got guys on this roster from Oregon, Alabama, Kentucky, Georgia, Florida State, Notre Dame, Minnesota. So, and I'm saying to myself, okay, and this is both sides of the ball, but I'm looking at Dable this year, and I'm saying to myself, what do we do? What is he doing? Like, he's taking a step back. Look, injuries, Mike said it, injuries hit every NFL team. Chris, you stated, you got to plug and play guys. I get the depth. We get injuries. But as we've seen with Brian Dable is, as we saw in the Buffalo game with Tyrod Taylor before the half, he wouldn't let Tommy DeVito throw in the jet game. And then with the Gano snafu, knowing clearly that the Gano is not the same kicker, and he's having him kick a 35-yarder in the rain, and we blow it against the Jets. And I exploded when here we are, we're at Dallas. Dallas drives down the field fine. They're home. They get down there, fourth down. McCarthy goes for the kill early. It's still 0-0. The defense holds him. So here we are. The defense holds him. And look, now we're coming out, and what does he do? He runs Barkley into the line. And then when the camera goes to Dable, he looks frustrated. Like, did he practice this week? What happened? You're telling me that Kafka, Dable, even Bobby Johnson, you can't scheme a 6-yard pass to Wan'Dale Robinson? Like, you got to get your defense out of there. Get them to the 30-yard line. Get a couple first downs. Give the team a breather. The defense just came up big for your team. And Dable has no answers to follow that up. And he looks clueless. He looks like he's puzzled. Look, we're fans. We're watching on TV, or Chris, like you. You went to the game, okay?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Right, you went to the game.
I did.
Hey, you got to give us. You got to do something for your squad.
Yeah. And just to jump in, Scott, we were all saying, and hi, Tudo. Thanks for coming to the show. I know you just dropped in, as always, Tudo, for supporting.
Yeah.
But, Scott, just to your point, the Giant fans that were around me at the game, and I'm sure you felt the same way, Mike.
Right.
I mean, nobody's afraid of DeVito. They clearly knew Barkley was going to get the ball at that point.
Right.
And it's just like you makes you scratch your head and think out of the box, right? I mean, even if they couldn't run play action because they don't have time, scheme up something.
Use Barkley as a decoy, maybe.
Right. I mean, look, and I get it. And Mike, you mentioned McKetton, like when Barkley ran into him, right? I mean, look, he didn't know what he was doing. I mean, look, we learned this in PAL football. When in doubt, fire out. I mean, McKetton actually turned around.
He did. Like, what's up? What's going on?
You're right. He turned around. I mean, Barkley didn't have a chance. Look, I don't think it's good to come on here with you guys and call for people's jobs. I get it. And listen, I have faith in Dable and Chan. I can't give up on him now. But Dable's going to have to look in this offseason and say to himself, you know what? I got all these guys. These linemen are from big-time college programs. I mean, where are we going? Okay, you could say Parrott's from Connecticut, but Lemieux went to Oregon. Ezeudu and McKetton, North Carolina. I mean, LT went to North Carolina. Like these aren't small town college programs.
And what's amazing, absolutely amazing, is that Pert and Lemieux managed to make it to their second year past the Gettleman regime. Could you imagine? They made it last year, and they made it again this year. Past they're 2 years in, and they've survived. Which
it's amazing.
There's nobody better.
I know. And look, I know we said this before, Chris. We lost Hassenhauer, the kid that we picked up from Pittsburgh, to be a center. Okay. And who would have thought? And Andrew Thomas getting hurt. I mean, it sunk us. And Chris, you said it before the season started. I give you the credit, Chris. You said that we're going to have some growing pains with JMS, with Schmitz. You know, we have some growing pains at center. He's a rookie, right? But he got hurt. So his evaluation, he's really graded really down right now. He's not having a good year if you look at the PFF stats, right? But we're just bad. And and now it's through the whole team again. Isaiah Hodgins, non-factor, right?
What happened?
Daniel Bellinger, what happened? I mean, again, what happened to Daniel Bellinger? You know what happened? You can't get the ball. You can't get the ball, and they don't even use him in the block. It's hard. Like, I want to say to Dable, you're an offensive guy. You're Alabama, Jets, Dolphins, Patriots, right? His resume got Bills, and here we are. And Dable looks clueless. He looks clueless. And I'm going to go back to the Jet game, not because it's the Jets, and I'm a big Giant fan, but he never should have brought in Gano. He knew Gano wasn't Gano, even the Gano from last year. Terrible conditions. Gano's hurt. It wasn't a 35-yard chippy. I mean, he sank the team. And now you sign a guy, Cade York. I mean, that's training camp next year. The kid from LSU. I mean, Randy Bullock, fine. He's a veteran guy. He goes around the league. But now you bring in Cade York? You just signed Gano to a 3-year extension that starts next year in 2024. He's never going to see a day of that contract. It's over. Forget it.
Well,
this
they might bring
got to be bad.
Yeah, they might have York Scott next year in battle with Gano.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think what happened, I mean, we're going back to the Jet game again, but I'm just assuming that when he made the extra point on the DeVito touchdown,
right,
he made it. I think he would have missed it. It probably would have went for it and not kicked that field goal there at the end. But I mean, I feel like because he made it, he probably felt a little confident. But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, and then he goes right to surgery, right? I mean, like,
and he goes right, immediately. Right. It's a bad look.
Yeah, bad luck. Right.
It's a bad look. And he's struggling. I mean, in Kafka struggled. I mean, look, we're 0 for 12 in Dallas on third downs. You're 0 for 12.
Yeah.
I mean, that's hard to even do.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I know he says it's not good enough. And you know, he regurgitates, you know, what he's trying to say. But you have to scheme. Look, DeVito's on the squad. The Truth said it a few minutes ago. He's a third-string quarterback. I get it. You know, DeVito. I don't expect DeVito to give us much, but you got to give him something in this scheme. DeVito plants his left foot, and they're on him. Like you can. And Jalen Hyatt. We talk about this. Third-round pick, speed burner from Tennessee. He's open, but he can't get the ball to him. You can't get. It's impossible.
Yeah, and you
It's
see
really,
DeVito
it's
looking at the
really
rush too. When they do close-ups, he looks at the rush. He's not a seasoned.
no,
He's a
no.
practice
He's a
squad quarterback.
mature. He's a mature rookie. I mean, he
Yeah.
played a lot of college football, which is great. But I mean, come on. I'm very down on this coaching staff.
Yeah, I mean,
Especially
honestly, Scott, with his career, he's probably better served in the USFL, XFL, getting
right.
time there and getting experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, bring him into camp, practice squad. But I'm very down on this. I'm very down on Dable. I just and look, he's got, as we know, right? We're going into Washington, okay, and you guys stated Washington's thinking they're going to beat us. Washington's thinking they're going to beat us. Then we have New England, and we have our bye. Then we're back with the Packers and the Saints. I mean, this is going to get tough here. I mean, where are you going? And I'm really not of the fan club that says, hey, let's just lose, draft a quarterback. You can't bring in a quarterback. Say it's Drake May. You can't bring in a quarterback that Jalen Hurts walked into with the Philadelphia, Dak Prescott with Dallas, who had systems in place. Most recently, Trevor Lawrence, right? Down with Peterson in Jacksonville. You can't get a young quarterback here because he's not going to be able to function. The offensive line is just not put together. I give Andrew Thomas a lot of credit for coming back into that Dallas game because, you're a pro. Guys play hurt. We were shaky when he got off the field, and he's missed a lot of time, and he went back out there. I give Andrew Thomas a lot of credit because if he stayed out and the rest of the game, I think, and we had Sean Harlow. I mean, we just can't get it done. It's really, we're non-competitive, and when you're non-competitive in the NFL, you're gonna get beat up. You just are, and it's an embarrassment.
I mean, to lose this many games, right? I think they set the Giant record, or they're up there with the NFL record. Most games lost by 20 or more points, or 26 or more points in a season.
Right. And Mike had a good point. Mike's like, hey, the schedule's tougher, and it is. But Buffalo gave you the game. You should have beat the Jets. I mean, come on. I mean, those are 2 wins right there. I get it. You should have went to Vegas 4-5.
Yeah,
at least. But it's bad. I mean, now and why would Tyrod Taylor? Look, he's a true pro, but he's been in the league 12, 13 years. He's coming off I think a 2-year, $20 million contract. Why are you, if you're Tyrod Taylor, you're going to play in this and risk getting hurt again? Does it matter if he comes back in? I don't know. Do you go with DeVito? I mean, Barkley's been in the league 10 years. I mean, Matt Barkley, who's wearing Gano's number, by the way. Do you play Matt Barkley? I mean, Barkley's happy he's getting a check. He's in the league.
That's right. That's right.
And I'll end it with this. I don't want to go on too much.
No, you got a couple of minutes. Go. We got 2 minutes.
We get the guy off the couch, Justin Pugh, who's an original Giant. He's 33 years old. He's going to be the spokesman. That's a damning statement. I don't like it.
It really is.
It's a damning statement that Justin Pugh is now going to be the. He's telling us fans, hang with us. Hang with us. You just came off the couch. Yeah. And look, I'm not a bettor. I don't bet at all. I don't play fantasy. I just don't. I'm not into it. But the NFL has married with the betting, so there's a lot of money that people are saying the Giants could tank doing this. It's a bad look all the way around.
Yeah. And you know what, Scott? With DeVito, they don't have to tank because when you're going to play DeVito, they're not going to win many games anyway. He's a practice squad quarterback.
Right.
So
exactly.
You don't even have to call it anything. It is what it is. We're playing with a bad offensive line and a practice squad quarterback.
I just don't like fans wanting the team to lose.
No.
Let them. We know they're not going to win many games with what they got right now. So just let it take its course. That's what I say.
It doesn't guarantee anything. The draft picks. You maybe get the right one. You pick the right one, but
that's right.
We've seen it before. Listen, the Browns up until a couple of years ago, and the Bengals, they've been lousy. They finally got it right. At some point.
And look,
a lot of years they took a lot of number ones.
Right, and you look at the teams that are winning. Like you look at the Lions under Dan Campbell, former Giant. You look at the Browns now with that offensive line. Hey, these guys play nasty. I mean, these guys are big and tough, and they're dominating the game. I mean, the Browns won in Baltimore. Yeah. And they're pile driving the Ravens at the end of the game. It was a great game to watch in the end.
Well, they're going to be tested now with Watson out.
Right, exactly right. They can have the kid Dorian Thompson from UCLA. Yep. Trying to quarterback, but no, our offensive line we're just non-competitive, and then of course you go to the other side of the ball. You got McKinney barking a little bit. Look, McKinney's looking for big money. Why would you, if you're the Giants, you're going to re-sign Xavier McKinney for big money? It makes no sense.
No, he's going to be well.
And Barkley's not going to be on this team. And you know what? You need Daniel Jones to be on this team next year because you know what you have with Jones at least.
I know before you run, Scott, but before that, I tend to believe that Barkley may be on this team just because of how inept this offense is, and they'll maybe franchise him or work another 1-year deal. It's just gotten so bad. They need.
I don't know if they'll do that.
Even though they,
I don't think they're going to do it.
I'm only thinking because the quarterback situation is such a question mark, and they need somebody to lean on. I know. I didn't feel this way. If Jones had a decent year, I would say, maybe goodbye. But the fact that the quarterback position is such a question mark, I almost tend to think, they kind of need to bring him back. But we'll see. It's going to be a fascinating offseason. It's going to be better than the regular season, so we're going to enjoy it. We may not agree with everything, but I can tell you, come that last game of the season, we're going to be all ready to rock and roll and see how this roster, transforms.
January 6th or 7th, Philadelphia Eagles, baby. We'll be there.
That's right. Scott, always a pleasure. You always, come with some great knowledge, man, as you and Mark both do. And we're going to get you on again. And, thanks for following us. And
thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right.
Take care. Mark. Take care, Scott.
Thanks, Mike. There. Mark was already on. That was Scott. So thanks, Scott. And you might see him over at some other shows. Our friends at Giant Insider, Joey Z, good friend of mine. Joey Z is Bleed Blue. He went to Dallas with me this weekend. He couldn't wait to get into the stadium. I'm not sure why. He wanted to get there 3 hours before kickoff. I was like, "Come on, let's ease the pain slowly, Joe. We don't need to get in it too early." But welcome to the show, Joey Z.
Hey guys, how you doing?
All right.
What's going on?
Yeah, I was anxious to get in there, only to be anxious to leave about the middle of the second quarter, and that was it. It was a quick trip, but the tailgate was good, so that's all that matters.
That was very good. So, Joe, like we said with the previous two guests, we don't want to take too much of your time. What's going through your head? November 15th, November. We're a little more than halfway done with the season. Not much. We're at halfway mark. What are you thinking about right now in terms of this franchise?
Believe it or not, I'm thinking about the article that Ralph Macchiano wrote about. Did you read this? That there's feeling within the Giants building that Jones could still be the guy if they pick within the top 2 or 3, that they might not take a quarterback.
Is that smokescreen, Joe, or Mike? What do you think? Is that just fodder? What do you think that is?
I don't know what to think. I mean, he's a very reputable reporter, so I don't know what to think. I really don't.
What do you think, Joe, about reading that? Do you like?
Well, see, Shane is all about building a team. All right. And I believe in the way that he rates players. If he doesn't think that these guys are, what the media is making out to be, if they're not a blue chip franchise type of player, if you're trying to build a team, trade down just a couple of spots, compile picks, it's too hard to tell. It's too early. We don't know how things are going to shape up. We don't even know how the rest of our roster is between now and the end of the season, but it's something to think about. That could you imagine, if we had the number 2 spot and Shane did not take a quarterback and he went with either Marvin Harrison or but how many quarterbacks in the last 20 years have been elite that have been taken at the top of the first round? I guess you could say Joe Burrow, right? Tua, Herbert. I guess Pat Mahomes. I guess that's more as of recent, but you have.
But he was taken 12th, wasn't he? 12th. They traded down to get him.
Yeah, that's right. And Jalen Hurts was a second rounder, and Brock Purdy was a 6th rounder. He's Mr. Irrelevant, so he can still function.
Yep.
Without picking at the top of the first round. I'm just curious how this is all going to play out. As far as the season, Chris, I just want this to end. It's painful every week. We know what we're getting into. If we win one game between now and the end of the season, I'm going to be shocked. They haven't flexed us out of the Monday night at Green Bay yet. I'm just praying that that's going to happen, that they can move that to a Sunday at 1:00, so we have to be embarrassed on national television again.
Yeah. If they want viewership and sponsorship money, they best get rid of that before these sponsors pull their commercial for that game.
Yeah.
Joe, I mean, in terms of we know Scott mentioned Dable and Shane. I mean, I'm still on board with these guys. Who are you holding more accountable? You holding more accountable Dable or Shane at this point?
At this point, I think it's the coaching staff. The players are not developing in some ways the way they should. Evan Neal, I mean, come on. You're the 7th overall pick of the draft. The guy just looks absolutely lost. The offensive line coach, I think, needs to take a hike at the end of the season. I think you really need to reevaluate your offensive coordinator and Mike Kafka, and we'll see. It's kind of hard too because now you're on a third string quarterback. You haven't had a healthy offensive line pretty much all year, no consistency. So it's kind of hard to put blame in certain areas for that. But
I agree.
Someone's
overall,
going to get blamed.
what's that? Yeah, it all starts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it starts and ends with the head coach. I like Brian Dable, and I believe he could be a great head coach. And you have to let him fail in certain ways to learn. But man, it's just the head-scratching decisions this year with the lineup and the way that he manages certain in-game situations. It's a complete 180 from what it was a year ago. It's just, I don't know. We'll have to see how it plays out at the end of the year, continue to build a roster. And he definitely deserves a year 3 without a doubt. You're not coach of the year and you win a playoff game for nothing. So whoever thinks that he's going to be out at the end of this year, barring some complete disaster, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. And good point by Jay. Neil has played a bit better, and I hope he plays Sunday. And the reason being is there's no Montez Sweat, there's no Chase Young. So you're going to be playing against a couple guys that are backups that are now going into the full-time role. So that's a good test for Neil if he can hold his own playing up against that defensive line of Washington without those guys there. But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, we'll see. And that's the other thing is him staying healthy. He's been having these ankle injuries, and I don't know if it's just bad luck or what, but that's the other thing with these injuries. It doesn't matter the coach, it doesn't matter the training staff, it doesn't matter this or that. How come we seem to be the most injured in the league every year? I know it's gotten better last year, but it just seems like every major player always has something, and they're always missing time.
It does seem that way. I almost wonder, because the team isn't very good, do they sit guys, if they were in the heat of a race with these guys, some of these, not the concussion guys, but some of the other guys with some nagging ankle injuries and whatnot, would they have been, pushed? Would they be, questionable, but they're playing? I feel like maybe they're just a little bit less, what's the point, to push a guy, we'll just keep him out kind of thing. So, yeah, that's a good question, Joe. I'm not sure how to read into that either with all these injuries. And we all wonder that, right? We always hear it every day on social media. And what is with the injuries for so many years? Right?
I know. It's a lot of players, too. It's just not one or two. It just seems to be plaguing a roster as the year goes on.
We've had our share on the road, so I know we always blame the MetLife turf. They have new turf, but I tell you, a lot of the injuries this year have come on the road, too.
Yeah. So
it doesn't matter where they play. They can play, in a sandbox,
Exactly.
Easy impact, then they're going to get hurt. But, yeah, it's just enough of the injuries. And the roster just keeps turning and turning with more practice squad guys. But, we got a couple of minutes, Joe. What else in terms of the quarterback situation with Jones? I put this question out to Mike before. If you knew Jones was going to come back to that Viking type form, and like you saw him at the Arizona Cardinal game, and he was going to be healthy, if you knew you're getting that type of play out of Jones, would you pass on a quarterback and go Marvin Harrison?
If he plays to
the Jones from the Vikings or Cardinals game in that second half.
100%. If he could stay healthy and play to that level, he could definitely be a winning quarterback. You already paid him right at this point, and if he's playing to the level that he's expected, you build around him and build more talent. You can definitely have a contender. Look what we did last year with less talent and how well he played. It's just, but that's not the reality, Chris. The guy, 2 major neck injuries in the last 3 years. Now he has a torn ACL. The question isn't really so much as talent anymore. It's can he stay healthy?
I think that's the big reason why they would go and get a quarterback, just for his injuries, not performance. Yep.
Definitely. He's not dependable, and each time he went down, it sank our season.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And Tudo, thanks for telling me about my mic. I have no idea what's going on with it, but thanks, man. I appreciate it.
I still hear you, Chris, but you sound like you're like far away.
Really? Yes. I don't know what the deal is. How about now? A little better?
No.
No, not really. I'm gonna have to trash this mic, I guess. But what was it? Last thing, if Jay said a good Jones goodbye, obviously we owe him $47 million of the Giants do next year, so he's going to be here.
He's going to be here. Yeah.
So we'll have to wait till 25, or we'll see what happens.
Even if he's an expensive backup, he will be on the roster. You can't cut him.
It'd be a bad idea if let him start, even if they drafted a quarterback and just ease the next guy in, like Mike, you said, like a Patrick Mahomes,
Alex Smith
situation, right?
Yep.
Could very well be. just learn behind him, and then in 25, it will be the quarterback that we draft to take the helm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Shane probably had I think he had the foresight to see that. That's why he gave that deal to Jones where he can get out in 2 years. Because he's not stupid. He saw what the draft class was this year.
Oh yeah.
Don't be fooled that he didn't see that. So it's like a chess game, right? When you're a GM, you got to think a few moves ahead. You got to be planning, expect.
Well, I definitely have faith in him. He always seems to be 2 steps ahead. You see the returns that he's been getting on these trades, the players he's been drafting. Just got to give him more time. And, the quarterback situation within a year or 2 will figure itself out at some point. But in my opinion, if that bona fide quarterback is there in April, you take him.
Yeah.
And worry about everything else.
Yep. You guys can hear me right now, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'll mess around with. All right. Well, we got a couple of minutes yet, Joe. Anything else you want to add? Talking about how about Wink? Let's leave you with that question. What's your feeling on Wink? He had a good stretch there for those last 4 or 5 games, or before the last 4 games or so. But before that, they were doing well up until that Jet game. And then Raider game, everything ended. What's your feeling on Wink coming back next year?
I don't know. That's tough. I mean, this was his problem in Baltimore. He never could adapt to the situation that he was in, and that was what led to his demise there. In Dallas, there was a couple times where they played zone where Cordell Flott and I think it was who else got the interception? They had 2 picks in that game, even though we didn't see it. We saw it on TV. But certain schemes confused Dak Prescott, and those were the times that he actually got the pick on him. And when he went man, or where he blitzed and he went 1-on-1 on the outside, they got burned. It's like, how many, it's just, I understand he has a system and he wants to stick to it, but you have to have the willingness to adapt. And we knew this when he came in. He had his type that, he wanted to play, and we were all for it, but, it has its positives and negatives. I would give him another year, give him more talent, give him another pass rusher, have him, get another corner on the outside and see what his scheme will be with the players that, need to fit his system. But I'm kind of 50-50 on him, Chris. And, if they told me that they would get rid of him, they're going to move on to somebody else, I'd be just as open to it as anything else at this point. Maybe that's because of all the losing, but, you're getting murdered in some of these games. 40 in week 1, they scored 49 against us. Last week they gave up a ton to the Raiders, which wasn't a good offense with the rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of Wink being just getting stale in some of his, schemes or calls. But I also think the defense, when they know the offense can't score more than 11 points, they're not robots, they're humans. I mean, they're playing hard. It seems like the first quarter they play pretty hard. Then as soon as the team gets up on them a little bit and they know they're out of it, it seems like things get out of control.
They mentally let down.
Like, I would say maybe physically they're playing hard, but I feel like mentally they're just like in another world at some point in that game. But,
yeah, and on the defensive side of the ball, they haven't had too many injuries. It's been pretty consistent back there for what they had.
Yep.
So, I don't know. Maybe it's just a mental thing where they know the offense can't score more than 10 points. When you go past that, they're like, what's the point,
Right.
Who knows?
And we're seeing that kind of, with the Jets right now with their
Exactly.
Doing. Yeah, so, I could say it's creates a little bit of a problem. But, all right, Joe, we want to thank you for coming on, as always. You're always welcome on the show. Thanks for following us. And, hey, we'll be talking, I know, soon. So
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, guys. Greatly appreciate it.
Appreciate the support. All right. That's
All right.
That's Joey Z, everybody. And so, Mike, we only got a couple more minutes. But before we head out, what do you want to bring to the table to finish up?
Well, I think
A couple things, right?
Well, yeah, well, we're going to be having that coming up with me and Spartan. But I think you made a good point earlier. You said there's going to be a lot going on this offseason with the Giants, and I think it has to be. I think Shane has to really, really probably have his best offseason, because he's going to have to make some very tough decisions. Some not so tough. Like I can see at least 5 or 6 guys who should not be on the team next year. They're no-brainers. But he needs to really, really hit it in the draft. He needs to get at least 2 starters minimum from the draft. And some will argue more, and they're probably right. And he's got to hit on free agency. Got to hit, because usually Giants, they really don't do well when they free agency. For some reason, guys like Gawinski was an all-pro when they signed him after being in with the Colts, and he's played a shell of what he was.
Yeah, he's regressed, but he's played better since he got back on the bench. But you're right, there was a long stretch of him not playing well.
Right. So I mean, he's got to hit it. I mean, and and we got to stay healthy. Another good point with Joey and other guys about the injuries. Mark. We have to somehow figure out how to avoid having so many guys on the injury list. It seems to be like we're at least the top 3 teams that always have injuries.
Yeah.
But it's going to be interesting, Chris, and I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to hear a lot of rumors about, Shane possibly trading up. It's going to be interesting. It really is.
Smoke screens, yeah. And like
or making a trade before the draft, get more picks,
right.
Make a trade. Good.
That's right.
See it.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of that goes down at the combine. A lot of these talks, because all the GMs are there, so a lot of these type of deals go down at the combine ahead of time, and that'll be fun to watch. So we got to get through this season, emotionally remove ourselves from all that. Just sit back, take it all in as best we can, enjoy the other games. Hope they beat the heck out of each other. Dallas and Philly. We'll see what happens here, but and just get through it, and then we move right to the off season and really start to see what they do to change things around. I mean, listen, everybody, as quickly as the Giants, made the playoffs last year and how quick it's turned around, this thing can turn around quick next year too. I mean, we could be looking at a team to win 8 games next year. It seems far-fetched right now, but, the roster in general turns over about 33% every year on every NFL team. So we might be going a little higher this year. There's a lot of one-year deals. So this roster will be transformed. But the offensive line, quarterback position, the 2 big questions, and, we'll get that addressed. And
they got a bit more cap space this year, so keep that in mind too.
Yeah. So there is going to be some light at the end of the tunnel. Listen, hope, right? We all want hope. We just got to get through the forest of the season, and then we'll see some light, and we'll have that hope again. We'll be talking playoffs again in the spring and summer. How crazy this team's going to make it this year. Hey, we did this, and we're all going to be hyped up once again, hopefully not to be let down, and we could at least have a season that we could be at least relevant, right? That's what we want, a season to be relevant. And that's
I think I can speak for fans. The fans just want to see effort. They want to see the GM trying to make the team better. They want to see players putting out effort. That's what they want to see. I mean, I think that's what we all want to see.
That's it. Jay puts dreams, and then he also puts delusions. So I think he's not sure what to believe. He's caught in the middle too. Hey Juan, thanks for jumping on the show. I saw you popped in too. I guess we'll get out of here, Mike. Right? Anything else?
Yeah. No, that's it. That's all I got.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, we want to thank everybody for our guests coming on, all you that were in the chat room. And don't forget, next Monday will be, hopefully positive, or, maybe we'll have some good news after a win. We'll see. For some of you that want wins with NY Giants Rush. Spartan will be back. Craig will be back. Alex on the show. Mike, who knows, maybe Mike will be on that show too. But thanks again. Rush Hour back next week. We'll see what we're going to do with a preview show or keep this going. Maybe we'll do some more guests. Those of you who haven't been on the show, I'd like to get some of you on there too. The Coles,
definitely.
Wands, anybody, Mark B. So, we'll put that out there too. Maybe we'll do that if not next week, the week after, maybe, next couple of weeks. But all right. Thanks again. We appreciate your support, and please follow NY Giants Rush, and we'll be, talking to you guys soon. Thanks again.
See you guys.